Okay, good afternoon. This year is Le'ela Nishmas William and Helen, Rachel Bat Yosef, David ben Abraham, Le'ela Nishmas Svi Dov ben Chaim Pesach, Fred ben Richard, Osher Shmuel Chaim and Ephraim, Litziona, Esther Bas Sarah, Osher ben Yosef, Le'ela Nishmas Morat Esther Bas Yitzchak v'Sarah, Yitzchak ben Sarah, Devorah Bas Yitzchak, Avram ben Mordechai David, Reuben ben Shmuel, Shoshana Bas Elchanan, Chana Golda Bas Yisrael, Chaim ben Fege, Yaakov ben Yitzchak, Yeshua ben Shmuel, Mordechai Netzach ben Rivka, Le'ele Nishmatam. Today's topic is about why did God create evil, or did God create evil? Where does evil come from? Before we begin, did you hear the story? Nechama, all my stories are true, but some didn't happen yet. There was this Rav who asked one of his congregationists, how can you never come to my Shabbos afternoon shir? You're davening here 26 years in the shul, and you never even come once to my Shabbos afternoon shir. So the guy says, listen, Rav, I'd like to come, but at Shabbos lunch, we have many guests. And after Shabbos lunch, there are many dishes, and I have to help my wife wash and dry the dishes. And by the time I'm finished, it's too late to come to Yeshir. So the rabbi says, listen, Mr. Goldberg, why don't you buy chat pamiot? Chat pami? Chat pami. How do you say that in English? Paper plate. Disposable chat pami. And then you won't have a problem. He said, okay, Rabbi, I'll do it. Comes next Shabbos, and he still doesn't come to the shir. So he says, Mr. Goldberg, what's the problem? Didn't you buy chat pami? He said, yes, Rabbi, I bought chat pami, but you know how long it takes to wash and dry chat pami? You just have no idea. Okay, all right. One more. There was this good Reform couple, staunch Reform, who never missed the Temple Emmanuel. They had one and only son, who they raised as a real Reform Jew, don't do any mitzvot, just you're a Jew in heart, eat gefilte fish Friday night. But all of a sudden, the son, the only son who had raised a good Reform Jew, begins to wear a kippah, put on tzitzit, tefillin, begins to keep kosher, and worst of all, Yiddish Arona, he wouldn't go to the Treifert Chinese restaurant on Shabbat. Every Shabbat, they would go to a Treifert Chinese restaurant. He wouldn't go anymore. They're beside themselves with worry. Where did we go wrong? We raised him as a good Reform Jew, our only child. They're beside themselves. They're hysterical. Where did we go wrong? So they went to the Reform rabbi. Rabbi, where did we fail? He won't even come to the Treifert Chinese restaurant on Shabbos. Worst of all, he's wearing tefillin and kashrut. The rabbi says, calm down. The first thing you must do is check your mezuzah. Maybe it's kosher, and that's your problem. Maybe it's kosher, maybe that's your problem, okay? You never know, right? You just never know. Does God create evil? Where does evil come from? Well, Isaiah 45 tells us, God says, Yotza or bore choshech. God says, I form light and create darkness. Oseh shalom, I make peace, ubore ra, and I create evil. Ani Hashem oseh kol ele. God says, I'm the only one that does everything. If you want to blame someone for evil, you have to blame the big boss. Oseh shalom, God says, I make peace, ubore ra, and I also create evil. He tells Isaiah chapter 45, pasuk 7. The question is, who needs it, right? Why did God create evil? Now, this is one of the Ani Mamins. Ani Mamin, 13 principles of faith. The Ani Mamin is, Sha'Kodesh Baruch Hu levado asa, v'oseh v'yaseh l'chol ha'masim. God alone is responsible for everything that goes on in the world. Even evil couldn't exist unless what? God created it. He says, Borei ra. Ani Hashem. God alone is responsible for all that happens in the world. We are like Lego players. Have you ever played with Lego? Lego players? Well, Lego players, Hashem is the one that creates everything. Yesh me'ayin, right? Where does evil come from? Now, Christianity believes that Satan, evil, acts independently of God, right? I think they believe that. But that's classic idolatry. To believe that Satan can act independently and he's not controlled by God, that's idolatry as far as the Jewish religion is concerned, because we believe there's only one source for all. Even evil and ugly also somehow come from Hashem. There is no other source where evil can get its energy from. So that's the great dilemma. The terrible evil, how does it draw its life force from HaKadosh Baruch Hu? The evil force of the Holocaust, how do we explain that? How to say that this evil force that caused the Holocaust is sustained by God? But if it's not from God, then we have a big problem. Then we have idolatry on our hand, because the one and only who controls everything, if you say there's a source outside of God that God doesn't control, that's classic idolatry as far as Judaism is concerned. Because if it's not from God, then it's multiplicity of powers, and that's like idolatry. So that's the paradox. Hashem alone is the only responsible force, so we have to try to deal with this problem. Why did God create evil or allow evil to flourish? Yesterday's reading in Genesis, we read, God surveyed the universe, v'hine tov ma'od. He said it's very good. So the Medrash makes a very bizarre comment. Tov ze yetzer tov. When God saw it was good, he's referring to the yetzer tov. Tov ma'od ze yetzer hara. Isn't that bizarre? Masha, how could Tov B'Yod mean what? The Yetzer Hara, the evil incarnation. Tov, when God said it was good, Zu Midas HaTov. This is the measure of good. Tov Ma'od, Midat Yisurin. Suffering. How could suffering be very good? Tov Ma'od, Ze Malach HaMavet. I think it's called the Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper? How is the Malach HaMavet Tov Ma'od? Shoshana, very bizarre. How is Ra, how is evil described by the Midrash as something Tov Ma'od? Because without Ra, there can be no good. Free choice can only work if there's what? Alternative. So God must allow choice to be meaningful, so he has to create evil as a force that's an alternative to himself. Right? Because there's a pasuk in Koheles, Ze Lumat Ze Oselakim. Koheles tells us that what God created in good, he also created evil. Without that balance, without that challenge, we'd all be robots. We'd all be puppets. And God doesn't want puppets, he wants partners. So allow us to be his partner. He has to allow evil, free choice, which means evil. God is the ultimate good. Supreme good. But part of God's master plan also includes evil. The Zohar gives an amazing graphic mashal of why God creates evil. The problem of evil, the Zohar gives a graphic, how do you say mashal, parable. A king had a one and only son who wants to test the virtue of his son to see if he's worthy to rule his kingdom. The heir apparent to the throne, whether the prince is worthy of assuming the throne. So the king has to know if the prince can rule himself in order to know before he can what? Rule his kingdom. So the king comes up with a bizarre test. The king hired a beautiful harlot to tempt and seduce the prince. Yiddish? The harlot was given all that she needs to test the prince's moral character. The king hides himself, watching how his prince reacts to this challenging, tempting test. What does the king want? that his son should fail. The king wants his son should resist the harlot's seduction. Then the king will crown him as the prince. If you're able to rule over yourself, then you're worthy to what? Rule my kingdom. Right? If he's able to rule over himself, the king says, well done, bravo. Now you're worthy to become the ruler of my kingdom. You ruled yourself, now you're worthy to rule my kingdom. Now the harlot must try her best to seduce the prince. Otherwise the king will not pay her. No tiki, no washi. But the king does not want the harlot to succeed. Just to test his mettle. Is that the right word, Yehuda? Mettle? Right? So too, says the Zohar. Who's the king in the parable? Hashem. Who is the prince? Us. Who is the evil harlot? Evil. Evil. Evil can evil. So Hashem, says the Zohar, creates evil in the hope that we would not be seduced by the Ra, proving our character, making us worthy to rule God's kingdom. But first you have to show God you're able to rule over yourself. We shall overcome. The test makes us grow. When the going gets tough, the tough get going or they go shopping. Depends, right? So when the going gets tough, the tough get going. So it's all a test, right? The inclusion of Ra makes the entire creation work. Otherwise, we are all robots and puppets. In order to become God's partner, we have to struggle with the alternative to God, which is evil. Because it's the test, going through hard times, and the struggle which makes a person great. No pain, no gain. Right? If that's true in the physical world, no pain, no gain, it's certainly true in the spiritual world, right? The presence of evil allows for free choice. Without free choice, there is no creation. The only reason for creation is the option of free choice, which is impossible without the existence of what? Of evil. Evil unto itself is evil, but evil as part of the entire system is tov meod. Lama? Because without evil, creation would never be. Without the option for evil, there would be no world. Without the option for evil, there would be no possibility of good. If there's no Ra, then how to know what Tov means? If there is no darkness, I can't appreciate the light. I can only appreciate the light and goodness if what? If there's an alternative. There's darkness and evil. Otherwise, I don't know what it needs to be good. Evil is sustained by God to provide us with the balanced choice to test our moral character, just like the Zohar's parable, where the king hires a beautiful harlot to test the prince.
Did he fail?
What? Well, sometimes we win. You win some, you lose some. Who said that? You win some, you lose some, right? Evil is like a cancer, a force which is fed by its host, the body. If it's successful, cancer destroys the body. It dies, and then cancer no longer has what? A live body to sustain it. Evil is like a cancer, it's self-destructive. Evil has a divine license to operate. Otherwise, we wouldn't know what good is. If I never sat in darkness, Nechama, I can't appreciate the light. Now we get to the major problem of the Holocaust. The question of why. It's actually a pasuk in Parshas Vayelech in Deuteronomy 31. God speaking about the Holocaust. 3,328 years ago. In Deuteronomy 31, God says, V'chora api bo. My anger will flare against him. Who is him? The Jewish people. Vazaftim, and I will abandon them. Vistarti ponai mahem, and I will hide my face from them. V'hoya lechol, and they will be destroyed. Umatzo rois rabbis v'tzorot, and much evil and suffering will what? Find them. V'anoichi haster aster panai, and I will surely hide my face on that day. I'll call a asa, all of evil that they did, ki pana lehim acherim, because they turned to other gods. Elhim acherim.
What about all the children?
Oh, we'll talk about that.
Children died.
David, stay tuned. Please don't leave early. We have time, okay? So who are the Elhim acherim? Who are the gods of others that caused the Holocaust? I wouldn't repeat this. Rabbi Yosef on a Motzei Shabbos Shir said this. Took a lot of flack for it, but he said it. So if he said it, I can repeat it. Who is Deuteronomy 31 referring to? The Holocaust came because the Jews turned to Elhim acherim. Who are the Elhim acherim? Elhim acherim means gods of others. Gods of others or other gods. Who are the Elhim acherim? So again, don't throw rotten tomatoes at me, Shimona, but Rabbi Yosef said that this pasuk in Devarim 31 is referring to the Reform movement, which started in Germany. There's no coincidence. Nazism started in Germany, said Rabbi Yosef, because the Reform movement, which makes a mockery out of Judaism, that's Elhim acherim that started in Germany. Now, the Meshech Chochmah, who died in 1926, Hitler didn't come to power until 1933. You look at the Meshech Chochmah of Abraham in Parshat B'chukotai, who wrote, he died in 26, but the Meshech Chochmah was written in 1901. He writes, those Reformed Jews who say Berlin is the new Jerusalem will bring a Holocaust on the Jewish people. In 1901, the Meshech Chochmah, was he a prophet? Writing in Parshat B'chukotai, all the terrible plagues and punishment, he says that those Reformed Jews, and that's what they said in Berlin, we don't need Jerusalem, we don't need the Jewish religion. Berlin is the new religion, New Jerusalem. So the Meshech Chochmah says that talk like that is going to bring a Shoah on the Jewish people.
Please call in the homeless.
What? What? Don't throw any rotten tomatoes to me.
No.
Do you mind handing out these papers?
Rabbi.
You just half one and half in the other, so you go faster.
Ezra.
Can you just give her and pass one back? Just pass one back.
Okay.
Yes, Ezra, what? One to a customer. You just pass it back. It goes faster. Yeah, go ahead.
Second temple.
Right.
He called. He got a message to Worms.
Right, and they said, don't bother me.
No,
Worms, Germany, right?
You are the big Jerusalem. We're
We're little Jerusalem, okay?
They were destroyed in the 17th century. So it works.
So it's no coincidence that Rabbi Yosef that the Holocaust, Nazism was born in Germany because the Jews in Germany, they invented deformed Judaism, which is a mockery of the Jewish religion and of the Jewish God. And that's called Elhim acherim.
And they were big-time assimilations.
Now let's take a look at this is the Tomer Devorah. Tziona, yesh lach Tomer Devorah?
What's that?
The paper I just gave you.
No, but what's this?
You never heard of the Tomer Devorah?
No.
Tomer Devorah is a Kabbalistic work written by the Ramak. Side number one. Side number one. Everyone have a paper? Side number one, the Tomer Devorah. It was written by Rabbeinu Moshe Cordovero in the 1500s. He was the Rebbe of the Ariya Kadosh. You need better than that, Shoshana?
No.
Side number one, the Tomer Devorah, a Kabbalistic work on how evil works and why it works. Side number one, you see that? Where it says, Noseh Avon. What does Noseh Avon mean? God carries the sin. It's a pasuk in Exodus 34, God carries it. What does it mean, God carries the sin? Rav Avram, ma pshat. Side number one, Noseh Avon, God carries the sin. Arezeh Godol Mahakodem. Sherei lo yasa Adam Avon, so yivra mashchis. Every time a person does a sin, he creates an evil force, a destroying force. Remember the movie Ghost?
Yeah.
Every time you do a sin, you create a negative, call it a demon. That sin takes on a life of its own. Like in Ghost. The writer, the screenwriter was a Jew. Kidetnan, we learned in the Mishnah Avot. You see that? The Mishnah Avot. Oivra vera achas. If you do one sin, konelo kateger echad. You create one prosecuting angel that's going to haunt you for eternity.
Oh, eternity?
Unless you do tshuva. So this demonic negative force that a person creates through his what? Evil behavior stands in front of God. This guy made me. This guy created me through his evil. And nothing can exist in the world only by God's shefa. How do you say that in English? Sarah, shefa? God's flow. Abundance, flow, energy. This evil creature that was created by a person's what? Evil act. He creates a spiritual entity of evil that exists. So how could it exist? Hadin noten she'amar Kodesh Baruch Hu. So this evil force says to God, feed me, feed me. Right? So what should God say to this evil force? Side number 2. What? God should say to this evil force, get lost. Go to your creator who created you.
Which is him.
Which is the guy who sinned. But no. God sustains this evil force waiting for the sinner to what? To do tshuva. So through tshuva, the evil force is destroyed. So on top of side number 2, Yehudi, you have that? We're over 40, we can learn Kabbalah, right? Rabbi Avram, in Yota ben Abban Aboyim. Shana, Daf Shtayim, side 2. God could say to this evil force, I don't sustain wickedness. Get lost. Go to the guy that created you and let him feed you and sustain you. Yiddish? Voya mashchid yored. Miyad v'noitel nishmatay. So justice would demand that this evil entity created by what? By this sinner should go and what? And zap him and destroy him. Oinena shalav kifi onshoy achis batal amashchitahu. Veina Kodesh Baruch Hu osakein. God does not do that. God carries and bears and tolerates the sin and the sinner, hoping that what? 3 things will happen. 3 possibilities. You see that, Yechiel? Or the sinner will come back, return, right? Come back and do tshuva, and then the sin and this negative energy force will what? Become, well, if it's tshuva mehava, be turned into a mitzvah. But tshuva meira, it will get what? Destroyed, right? Or yelech begehenim, or if he doesn't do tshuva, nebach, the person is going to have to go to Gehenna, right?
For 11 months or more.
For 11 or 12 months, whatever. And this is what Cain said to God in yesterday's reading. V'hayne shor Cain, Godol avoini minso. Cain said to God, after he killed his brother, is my sin too great for you to bear? Upesher Rabbeinu zachayna l'vracha. See that Yehuda Tanchuma Bereshit? Kol ha'olam kulo yata sovel. The entire universe, God, with all the sin you bear and tolerate and sustain. Yert says, Zonu mefarnes. Vavoini kavod. And my sin is so heavy. Sheinat yochal l'savlo. You're not able to what? To bear it, carry it, sustain it. Perush lefarnoso at she'oshev atakein. Give me a chance to what? Do tshuva and repair the damage. How do you do that? You kill somebody. How do you repair the damage? How do you do that, Sharon? I don't know. So this is what Cain was complaining. God, you are sovel. You carry and bear, sustain the entire universe with all the sinners. And my sin is so heavy you're not able to bear it? Im Cain, hareze midat savlanut gedola. Maze savlanut. Even though I'm not a doctor, you have to have a lot of patience. Even though you're not a doctor, right? Sheyazon liyafarnes brirya ra shebara chote achi yoshub. It teaches us to be a savlan. What does that mean? Patient. Someone wronged you, don't exact retribution right away. Be patient. Perhaps he'll come around and do tshuva. Now look at the punchline. Yilmad Adam. You have that, Sharona? The last paragraph. Yilmad Adam. On the pasuk, Moshe was the most humble man on the face of the earth. Rashi says savlan. What do you mean he was the most humble man? Golda, what does that mean? Rashi said Moshe was a savlan. Even though he wasn't a doctor, he had many, many patients. So look at the last paragraph. Yilmad Adam kama tzorech yeh savlan. How a person has to have patience, tolerate, bear with the person. Yizbor ovel chavero, someone wronged you, bear with him until the person what? Does tshuva. Until the person does tshuva. Learn from the big boss. God tolerates and sustains us even though we sin against him. So we sin against our fellow human being. He sins against us. We should also tolerate and sustain that until the person comes around. Not to exact retribution right away. Who teaches us that? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu teaches us that. So, getting back to our topic, I'll deal, David, with your question. We have populated the world with a mighty army of mashchitim. Mashchitim means zombies. Evil forces. Through our sins, we have populated the world with these evil forces. These forces of evil are sustained by God through God's welfare system, waiting for us to do tshuva. So Hester upon him is when God hides himself, when God's patience is exhausted. So these forces of evil exact its price. The bottom line is that Hashem is the only source of all that happens in the world, even evil. The problem of evil will never really make sense to us, because David Harel's Kasha is asked by the Marsha in Bava Kama, page 60. David, you mechaven to Marsha and the Orach Chaim HaKadosh. The Gemara in Bava Kama, page 60 says, Kiven shenitein HaKadosh Baruch Hu rishus lamashchit, einoi mafchin ben tzadik larasha. You understand this, Rona? I don't. Once God's patience has been exhausted, there's so much evil and sin in the world, and once God allows the destroyer to destroy, he doesn't distinguish between what? Tzaddik and a Rasha.
Like on the night of Pesach, when they
Does that make sense?
let the destroyer loose.
Rabbi Avram, doesn't make sense to me. The Maharsha on this Gemara, David, you're in good company. Bava Kama, page 60, says he doesn't understand this Gemara. In Parshas Vayera, in Genesis 18, when God wants to destroy Sodom, not everybody was wicked there. There were children in Sodom too. So Abraham says to God, Chalila Lacha. How do you say Chalila Lacha? Chalila Lacha. Chas v'shalom. Lahamis tzadik im rasha. How dare you, God, destroy the righteous with the wicked. V'hoya katzadik karasha. And the tzaddik will be just like the rasha. Hashofet kol haaretz lo yasa mishpat. Shall the judge of the entire universe not do justice? So Abraham was not just talking about Sodom. How do I know that? Because the Torah is not a history book. The Torah is God's GPS. God's personal system. He was speaking about the Holocaust. David Harel's question, how dare you, God? Who's more innocent than children? To destroy a tzaddik im rasha, v'hoya ka tzaddik ha-rasha. V'koshali, says the Marsha. Why v'koshali in English? Difficult. This is a difficult. Avram didn't get the answer either. The Orach Chaim HaKadosh on this pasuk. Now, David, the Orach Chaim HaKadosh lived in the late 1600s, in the early 1700s. In Genesis 18, on this pasuk where Abraham says to God, how dare you, God, to destroy and kill the tzaddik and the rasha, and the righteous shall be just like the rasha? How could you do that? Says the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, in this pasuk, Genesis 18, I'll read what he says. Keshetomit tzaddik yeh b'shoah. In 1690, who used the term shoah? Keshetomis tzaddik, when you destroy the righteous together with the wicked, says Orach Chaim, yeh b'hashoah. That's the shoah. Yachad katzadik karasha. Badrega achas. The tzaddik and the rasha both perish in the Holocaust. But why? But why? Is that fair? So David Harel is in good company. He's asking the Marsha's question. He's asking the Orach Chaim HaKadosh's question. But somehow when there's so much evil in the world that it just overflows, and somehow it also affects what? The righteous as well.
It's a collective punishment.
But is that fair? That's what it is.
It's collective.
But is that fair? Right?
But they could be
Now, what?
They could be a tikkun from
Evil is dependent on God. Otherwise it couldn't exist. Nothing can exist outside of God. Right? To believe that Satan acts independently on evil, that's
another religion.
That's another religion. Evil draws its energy from God. Somehow, part of the divine plan to allow for free choice. So evil has to exist. But when the Mashiach comes, evil will totally be destroyed, and then God's goodness will reign supreme. And that's why we did something very strange, Rabbi Abraham and Rosh Hashanah. We did something very strange. We blew 100 shofar blasts. Did you know that? Rosh Hashanah, why did we blow 100 shofar blasts? So Tosfot in Rosh Hashanah, page 33, quotes a medrash. Because Sisera's mother cried 100 sobs when Arafat wasn't coming home from the battle. Sisera, you know who Sisera was? And look in the book of Judges. Yechiel, who was Sisera? The symbol of evil. He was the Arafat and Abu Mamzer of his time. He didn't come home from the battle. When she finally realized that he's dead, Sisera's mother sobbed 100 sobs. Boo-hoo. So Arafat's mother cried 100 times. So therefore, I have to blow 100 shofar blasts on Rosh Hashanah? Golda. Very bizarre. What's it all about? What? On Rosh Hashanah, the Yom Hadin, we acknowledge that God is a supreme ruler. Even a Sisera, even an Arafat could not exist unless God allowed it and willed it to exist. So on the Yom Hadin, on Rosh Hashanah, we acknowledge that even a Sisera, even an Arafat, somehow is part of the divine plan. Even though we can't see it, we acknowledge it on the Yom Hadin, Judgment Day. Rosh Hashanah, we acknowledge HaKadosh Baruch Hu as the supreme master and ruler over all forces, even the force of evil, personified by whom? Sisera, which was the Arafat, Hitler of his day. Now, we never know the whole story. We just never know. Fasten your seatbelts. Now, Yael she gave Sisera an Excedrin headache, remember? She drove a spike through his head.
Yes.
Excedrin headache number 9. So the Talmud teaches before she did that, she seduced him. She seduced him to tucker him out, and like the black widow spider, right? After they mate.
That's right.
Chanoch, you getting this? The Zohar says, from that sexual encounter of Arafat and Sisera and Yael, she became pregnant.
What?
From that sexual encounter between Sisera and Yael,
Who was the child?
that child was the ancestor of Rabbi Akiva.
No. That's a good.
Sharona, go figure.
Wow.
Go figure.
Good.
Bizarre, no?
Well, he got his mother's character.
Yael, a married woman, committing adultery. Gedola avera lishma mi mitzvah shelo lishma. In order to kill him, she had to tire him out. What a way to go. So she deuced him, made him tired, and then from that sexual encounter, she became pregnant, says the Zohar. That child of Yael and Arafat was the ancestor of the greatest sage who ever lived. David, go figure. You just never know.
Like all the others.
You just never know.
Beautiful.
Everything that God does, even a Sisera, even an Arafat, somehow serves a hidden purpose. There's a long-term plan that we are not privy to.
I hope so.
But the big boss has a long-term plan.
When Mashiach comes, it will be
There's an ultimate plan for Tikkun Olam on the long and winding road to read the Geulah. But there are many detours and pitfalls. But somehow, at the end of time, Yechiel, come together right now. Somehow, looking back from the Mashiach time, we'll see how even Abu Mamzer and Arafat, somehow it's part of the jigsaw puzzle. David, doesn't make it any easier why 1.5 million children had to die in the Holocaust. But Rav Soloveitchik makes a very strange, I wouldn't repeat this, Sharona, but this is from Rav Soloveitchik's book. It's called Fate and Destiny, written in 1956. Now don't jump on me, I'm quoting what he says. You can buy the book. It's called Fate and Destiny, written by the great Rav Soloveitchik in the year 1956. And he calls this chapter 6 knocks. 6 knocks. There's a pasuk in Shir Hashirim, Kol Dodi Dofek. Who's that knocking on your door? Who's that ringing your bell? I got to get that in. There's a pasuk in Shir Hashirim, Kol Dodi Dofek. My beloved is knocking on my door. That's God speaking to Jewish people. So Rav Soloveitchik, in his book, Fate and Destiny, in the chapter called 6 knocks, who are the 6 knocks? The 6 million. And let me read what he says. In the midst of a night of terror, filled with horrors of Majdanek, Auschwitz, Treblinka, and Buchenwald, in a night of gas chambers and crematoria, in a night of absolute Hester Ponim. What does Hester Ponim mean? God hides himself. In a night where Satan rules, my beloved knocks. In that very night, the beloved appeared. Who's the beloved? God. God, who conceals himself in his hiddenness, suddenly manifested himself and began to knock at the tent of his suffering beloved, twisting convulsively on her bed, suffering the pains of hell. Who's he speaking about? David, the Holocaust. As a result of the knocks on the door of the maiden. Who's the maiden? Us, wrapped in suffering, the state of Israel was born. How many times did the beloved knock on the door of the beloved tent? It appears to me 6 knocks.
Wow.
So Rav Soloveitchik is saying that the 6 million birthed the state of Israel. Is that the right word? Birth? No, I wouldn't dare say it. But Rav Soloveitchik, in his book, Fate and Destiny, says from the ultimate evil, the murder of 6 million Jews, that's the only way the Holocaust, the only way the state of Israel could be born. Now, David asked me, is it worth it? If you ask them, is it worth it? But we're not asking me. Somehow, says the great Soloveitchik, from the height of the evil of the Holocaust, the 6 knocks of the 6 million made the state of Israel be possible to be born. Otherwise, the United Nations would never vote for partition, never. But couldn't God find another way, David? 1.5 million children had to die. Couldn't he find another way? Well, that's the question the Rechaim asked, the Maharsha asked. David, you're in great company. You're in great company. What? But we don't make the decisions. But it's somehow part of the divine scheme, says the great Rav Soloveitchik, that if it wasn't for the 6 million knocks of the Holocaust, the state of Israel would never have been able to be born.
But we say that souls don't disappear.
They come recycled.
Yeah.
So,
They're recycled.
You want
We can't say.
so amazing that the Rav would write this. I mean, he has the wide shoulders to say this, that if it wasn't for the 6 million Kedoshim, there would never be a state of Israel. But if you ask them, would they be willing to pay the price? But we're not asking them, right? It's not up. Nothing happens. Everything has what? A reason. Yeah. Now, even though we don't understand the reason, right? Yeah. But somehow it's part of the long and winding road. Now, therefore, as Sarah mentioned the other day, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. That's the statement of the Judaism. Listen, Jew, Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei is what? Midas HaRachamim. What's Elokeinu? Auschwitz and terrorism, Hashem Echad. Somehow it's all one. Can I see it, Yechiel? Therefore I cover my eyes. I believe that somehow Hashem, Rachamim, and Elokeinu, Din, somehow it's all one. I believe it. But do I see it? I can't see it, so I got to cover my eyes. But Zechariah 14 tells me, Bayoimahu, Yeh Hashem Echad, Ushmo Echad. On that day, when Mashiach comes, Hashem will be one, and His name is one. So the Talmud asked him, Sachem Daf Nun, Yonah, now He's not one? What do you mean? Zechariah 14, you're a religious rabbi, Zechariah. On that day, God will be one, and His name is one. And now He's not one? Hello? So the Talmud says, now He's one, but I can't see it. How could He be one when you have Auschwitz and terrorism? I can't see He's one. So I cover my eyes, Shema. But Bayoimahu, when Mashiach comes, looking back from the perspective of eternity, we'll see how Hashem Echad Ushmo Echad. We'll see how even the worst evil, somehow, Hakol L'Tovah. But now, I can't. On a good tiding, what bracha do you make? Hatov HaMeitiv. On an evil tiding, what your bracha make? Dayim Emet. You don't make the same bracha. You can't make the same bracha. God wants me to see it as evil. Otherwise, it wouldn't appear as evil. He wants me to see it as evil. Because from my perspective, it is evil. So I acknowledge it by making a bracha, Rabbi Avram Dayan Emet. But the Talmud of Sochem says, when Mashiach comes, on all besurot, I'll make only what? Tova HaMeitiv. Looking back from the perspective of eternity, now we can't see it. We're trapped in our body suits. We can't see it. Please release me, let me go. But after a person is released from his bodysuit, in the Olam HaEmet, looking back from perspective of eternity, from God's point of view, we'll see how even the worst evil that looked evil and was evil, from the physical viewpoint, from God's viewpoint, Hakol Tovah. But I can't see it now because I'm trapped in my bodysuit. But B'yayim Hahu, Yi Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad. So you gotta believe. Emunah. Emunah means you believe even though it doesn't make any sense to you. Remember that TV program, Father Knows Best, with Robert Young? I'm dating myself.
We're your age.
Judaism, Father Knows Best. Remember that, Shoshana? What a message. The kids thought that Daddy's being cruel. Father knows best. Only later on did they find out that Father knows best. We are little children now, Shirley. We can't understand what Papa's doing. Yes?
After World War II,
Go ahead.
from the camps, you're too young to remember. They were singing, No Country Wants These Jews.
Right.
And they would sing, These are gay, a hen takes the gay, a hen source the gay. Come here to Israel.
The Holy Land of Israel.
That was our hope.
But that wouldn't have been possible without the Holocaust.
So that was right.
Says Rav Soloveitchik. David, isn't that amazing? It takes a man like that to say those words. In his book, please buy it. It's translated to English. It's called Fate and Destiny. Chapter's called 6 Knocks of the Holocaust, the 6 million. In 1956. How many times did the beloved knock on the door of the tent of his love? It appears to me that we can count 6 knocks for the 6 million. So anyway, we see such a tiny piece of the puzzle, right? David, we're trapped in our bodysuit. What's 80, 90, 100 years compared to eternity? See, we see just a tiny piece of the puzzle. We don't see the whole picture. Only he does. But after we die, we have his bird's eye view. Then it'll all make sense. This is called Olam HaSheker. Beautiful.
What's sheker?
This is called the world of lies and deception, where we see evil and falsehood. But that's an illusion. Olam HaEmet, when we die, we go to the world of truth, where it all makes sense. Let's not be too in a hurry to get there. Let's not be in a hurry to get there. A lot of work to do down here. But this is called Olam HaSheker, and the afterlife is called Olam HaEmet. Right? This is the test. This is the test. When the going gets tough, the tough get going, or they go shopping. Right? So this is a test. How do you separate the men from the boys? By being tested. Right?
How about Olam HaGeulah?
Olam HaGeulah, that's the final redemption.
That's the final redemption.
We're on the long and winding road to the final redemption. Right? Right?
And you said this is a corridor.
This is a corridor, not the Mishnah says in Masechta Avot that this world is only a foyer. How do you say foyer in English? A corridor. Right?
Foyer is English.
Foyer, right? You ever wonder why we dream? You ever wonder why we dream? You ever wonder, right? Ava, are you sitting down for this? You give me a few extra minutes. We have time. The Zohar is something amazing. When you dream, it seems so real. You know you're dreaming? No. Then you wake up and you realize that what? It's all an illusion. Why does God do that?
An example.
Says an example that this world we think is the ultimate reality. When we die, we wake up.
Oh, I like that.
Therefore, how come the Christians call awake? Isn't that bizarre? Why did the Christians call a funeral awake? I'm not making this up, Shirley. Why they call it awake?
Because they're waking up.
Because the Zohar says when you die, you wake up.
They got it from us.
They got it from us. Awake.
He says it all the time.
So therefore, the Zohar says God lets us dream in this world to show that just like a dream you think is real, but when you wake up it's a reality. So this world, you think it's real. But when you die, you'll wake up on the other side. So we're basic training. Every time you have a dream,
This is major boot camp.
every time you have a dream, you think it's real. It's a lesson that this world seems real. But it's only a dream compared to what? Rav Abraham, Gemara Brachot says that death is 1/60th of sleep. Why is death 1/60th of sleep?
Sleep is.
Because sleep, when you dream, you're preparing yourself for death. The big sleep.
The big sleep.
The big sleep.
Woody Allen's big sleep.
The big sleep. But that's the paradox. When the body goes to sleep, the soul awakens on the other side. When a baby is born, the baby spends 9 months in a womb. A womb, it's cold, it's dark, it's damp. Oh, it's dark and damp, right? And that's like the kever. It's incredible that a woman's womb in Talmud Nida is called a kever. Isn't that bizarre? The Talmud in Nida says a woman's womb is called a kever. Because just like the fetus is like 9 months inside the womb, which is like a grave, and then is born into a world of light, and when he's born, who hugs him? His parents hug him. So after 90 or 100 years that we spend and we put back in the kever, we are reborn. And who hugs us? Our divine parents. When your human parents hug you when you're born, that's just a symbol that after we die and we are reborn, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, our loving parent, will hug us. We'll have nothing to fear beyond the grave. The death of the body is the birth of the soul. I'm a soul man.
Wow. I'm glad I came today.
I'm glad I came too. When the body dies, the soul is reborn forever. In a world of light, dream, you awake. Amazing that the Catholics call it awake. They got everything from us. Bavakasha. Oh, we have a class Thursday at 2 o'clock on current events in the Haftorah. Thursday at 2. Thank you very much.